When the Indian Air Force, proud of the Rafale fighters in the sky over Kashmir, was forced to turn around, the sky of South Asia is staging a cross-generation game of science and technology. 2025 April the 29th. Under the night sky, the Pakistani Air Force J-10CP and Indian Rafale. The first head-to-head battle between the Pakistani Air Force J-10CP and the Indian Rafale on April the 29th, 2025, not only rewrote the military balance in the region but also dropped a shock bomb in the field of global defense. This battle, called Silicon versus Steel: How to Tear Apart the Myth of the Invincibility of Western Weapons. The myth of the invincibility of Western weapons. India's Defense Research Network is proud of the REB-2AA radar, its 838 gallium arsenide components in the brochure of the French company Dassault was a symbol of cutting-edge technology. But when these components encountered Chinese-made gallium nitride technology, the generation gap was instantly apparent. Sec 14 experts revealed that the power density of GaN devices is 5 times that of GaAs, efficiency by 30%, which is directly reflected in the Pakistan KL700 electronic warfare pod suppression distance, the pod and the L-band maximum jamming power of 120 kW, which just covers the Rafale radar X-band operating frequency. This precise spectral suppression, so that the Rafale pilots in the post-war report described as if they were blindfolded and thrown into the storm. More embarrassing for India is that the KLJ-7A radar used by the Pakistani side is a foreign trade version, but its digital array of 1,200 GaN components, together with deep learning algorithms, can be completed within 0.8 seconds of the threat ranking of 20 targets. In contrast, the Rafale's REB-2AA radar still uses a hybrid architecture of mechanical scanning and electronic scanning, with a target update rate nearly 3 times slower. This technological gap was particularly fatal in the second encounter on May the 3rd. 3 J-10CPs shared fire control parameters through the data chain and fired 6 PL-15E missiles in unison from 120 kilometers away, forcing the Indian AWACS to withdraw from the battlefield in an emergency and completely losing its airborne command capability. Pierre Harvey, an expert at the Paris-based Foundation for Strategic Studies, wrote in Aviation Week that the conflict was essentially a Chinese-style combat cloud against the heroism of a single aircraft. Pakistan's ZDK-03 early warning aircraft to build the battlefield Internet of Things through the quantum encryption data chain, 12 fighter jets, 6 surface-to-air missile battalions, 3 electronic warfare detachment sensors fusion into a unified, intelligent airspace. When the Indian Rafale tried to implement electromagnetic silent surprise defense with 2 aircraft formation, the YLC-8B anti-cloaking radar, deployed at the borderline, had already identified its unique micro-Doppler characteristics through machine learning, and confirmed the engine heat signals through space-based infrared satellites. And the whole process of detection identification locking was compressed to 11 seconds. This systematic advantage was demonstrated to the fullest extent in the May 7th air defense operation. India, in order to save face to organize retaliatory air strikes, deployed 8 Rafale carrying Storm Shadow cruise missiles to try to hit the deep targets of the Pakistani side. However, the Trinity Air Defense Network, consisting of Red Flag 9P Air Defense System, J-10CP fighter jets, and DWL-002 passive detection system, built a complete model of attack corridor 230 kilometers away. When the missiles were still 180 kilometers away from the target, the Pakistani side caused 4 of them to deviate from their routes through directional energy jamming, and the remaining missiles were shot down one by PL-17 ultra-long-range air-to-air missiles at an altitude of 100,000 meters. This textbook interception directly resulted in India's $230 million worth of precision-guided munitions being reduced to scrap metal. The shockwave triggered by the air war is reshaping the pattern of the global defense market. Egypt, 48 hours after the outbreak of the conflict, urgently called off the $2.2 billion worth of Rafale purchase program, but instead with Chengdu Fei to discuss the introduction of the J-10CE production line. Qatar Air Force generals secretly visited a test flight base in Chengdu. Social media lamented, "The West is always selling outdated technology, but the Chinese teach us how to win wars. The Chinese are teaching us how to win wars." What worries the West even more is that the Made in China combat system that Pakistan has validated in the conflict, from the centimeter-level positioning provided by Baidu navigation satellites to the electromagnetic spectrum mapping performed by Yalong 3 drones, has demonstrated terrific system compatibility. The modular, plug-and-play design is disrupting the rules of the game in the traditional arms trade by demonstrating terrific system compatibility. The collapse of the Rafale myth, which India spent €8.8 billion to build, has revealed a deeper strategic dilemma. Its introduction of the Meteor missiles due to incompatible data chain cannot be linked with the Russian early warning aircraft. France to provide encrypted communication module and the strong electromagnetic interference in the average time of loss of connection up to 17 minutes. More ironic is that for the Rafale tailored MBDA missile maintenance. More ironically, the MBDA missile maintenance workshop customized for the Rafale has so far failed to go into production due to the lack of precision bearings made in China. The fatal flaws of this universal brand equipment in front of the systematic war is like a precision clock falling into a stone crusher. Every shiny part becomes the cause of the overall collapse. After the smoke cleared over Kashmir, the electromagnetic pulse remaining in the radar alarm is still telling the cruel law of modern war, when China will 5G communications, artificial intelligence, quantum computing into the combat system. The traditional military powers are still using 20th century thinking to sell 21st century weapons. The U.S. Air Force University's newly released 2030 Air Warfare White Paper acknowledges that the J-10CP's networked and coordinated engagement capability is at least half a generation ahead of the F-16V. What is even more alarming is that China's military-industrial complex has demonstrated the ability of technology feedback. The PAF's 59 technical improvement suggestions, such as intelligent skin sensors and adaptive frequency hopping radios, are being implemented through the Chengdu Aircraft Design Institute's User Feedback System, real-time iteration. This battlefield is the laboratory mode of research and development, is expanding the technology generation gap at an exponential rate. New Delhi Defense Exhibition, India's military representatives repeatedly wiped the Rafale model on the dust, while the next booth Pakistan display J-10CP holographic combat demonstration hall is crowded. This rather metaphorical scene is like a microcosm of the evolutionary history of modern warfare. When the flood of systematic combat sweeps in, any isolated performance parameter competition is nothing more than Don Quixote rushing to the windmill of the spear. The starry sky of Kashmir witnessed not only the victory or defeat of the two types of warplanes, but also the advent of a new era, where victory always belongs to those who weave the neural network of war with wisdom.